All right. Hello, Team Tufas and Team Tufas fans. And welcome to part 5 of our movement training with Team Tufas class. The first thing I would like to do before we jump into class is talk about our climber spotlight of the week. Our climber spotlight of the week is Chelsea Griffey, and I didn't know about Chelsea until yesterday, actually. I saw an article about her. She was and is the one of the most inspiring people I've read about actually throughout this whole process. But she was the first African American woman to climb El Capitan in Yosemite. She and her climbing partners climbed the entire 26 hours of the climb without really stopping to rest, only resting when they had to wait for someone else who was climbing. So it was an amazing feat, and she is super inspiring. She's mostly a trad climber. She likes trad climbing because as a shorter climber, she feels like it gives her the most creative opportunities to climb without being limited by where previous climbers have placed bolts or the protection. So that's why she likes trad climbing. She also is really passionate about sharing her love for the outdoors. She's spent time with Outward Bound program, the National Outdoor Leadership School, NOLS, and worked as a program director for the Bay Area Wilderness Training Program. And right now, she has kind of expanded that program and created the Los Angeles Wilderness Training, and she works as executive director for that program. She also leads backpacking trips for teenagers, especially women of color. And so she's not only a super strong climber, but also a leader in the outdoor world and very, very inspiring. So I haven't put the link down there yet, but I'll put the link to this article down below, and I'll leave you with her quote of advice, which is, always have a goal. Keep looking forward. The more you see it, the more you learn about it, the more you will be inspired to go after it. So I hope you all have some goals and that you're looking forward to them. All right, so today's focus is going to be on strength in movement. What is strength in movement, and how do we use it in climbing? Well, hopefully we should always be looking at strength in movement when we climb. There's always some sort of active thing that's happening, whether we're staying still on the wall, whether we're moving up the wall. There's always something happening in our muscles, in our core, also in our minds, of course. So we're going to be working on a few things, and they might not seem like they can be directly translated onto a climbing wall. But the purpose of these is to increase our body awareness, with a little bit of focus towards increasing our body awareness when there's this idea of like a plane of movement. So if I'm on a climbing wall, I've got a wall in front of me. I don't have infinite space to move in front of me, and I have empty air behind me. So I also don't have infinite space to move behind me. So we're going to be exploring a little bit of like this idea of movement in between two planes where we can't move into. If we move forward, we hit our head on the wall. If we fall backwards, we fall off the wall. So how can we maintain balance and strength within this kind of lateral and up and down space that we occupy when we're on a climbing wall? So we're going to be looking at that. And then we're going to just be exploring some different types of movement so that you can feel different types of movement on the ground, and then hopefully maybe then we'll revisit that first exercise, the moving within two planes, and we're going to try to incorporate some of those movements that we work on the floor into this up and down, side to side motion without the forward and back. So we're just exploring new ways of moving our body, how to integrate this feeling of strength and stability into the movements that we do on and off the climbing wall, and how to increase body awareness so that when we're climbing, we know where all of our parts of our body are, and we can relate to them through movement. So we know that if I move my hand here, where's maybe I'm moving somewhere else at the same time, we have this coordination, stability, and strength there. So let's get started. We're going to start with our warm-up. I'm going to add a couple of extra things into our warm-up today just to get ourselves ready. So find a spot on the floor. We're going to start standing. We're going to start, as we have been these last few days, with our spines. So we're going to start at our head. We're going to start just by making a circle with our neck. And we want to try to keep the head straight up and down. We're not turning it, keeping it straight up and down. And we're trying to limit the movement to our necks. Now, if it goes into your shoulders a little bit, don't worry. But we're trying to keep it on our neck. And we want to really push our neck forward and back. And to the sides. If you look in the mirror while you do this, you look kind of funny. Switch directions. Good. Now we're going to move down to our sternum, breastbone here, and we want to move from this point. So right in the middle here, you can even put your hand there, your finger on your sternum if you want to kind of guide you. And you really want to lean forward with the sternum, go to the side, really push that sternum back. When you go back, it's only your sternum going back. It's not your whole shoulders going back. So you should kind of feel like you're kind of curling in like we were doing a cat-cow. It's just that sternum is making a big circle. Really pushing forward, really pushing back. Switch directions. Good. Now we're going to do hips. So we're going to start with our, you can kind of place your hands right over your hip bones. And you want those to stay flat. You don't want them to tilt. We're just trying to move everything in a big circle, but keeping our pelvis in a neutral position as possible. And trying not to move the shoulders, which I find hard, but really isolated to the hips. Switch directions. Good. All right. So that got our spine moving in a couple different directions. We're going to go ahead and keep working our spine, do some side to side. Get your arms involved there a little bit. Good. We're going to introduce some twists, but we're going to do these twists with a twist. So instead of just swinging our arms around and kind of twisting our torso, we're going to be swinging our arms, but you're going to choose, we're going to play around with the timing and the momentum of our arms a little bit. So you might choose to go fast and then slow, fast, slow, fast, so that you get this kind of lift sensation and this snap at the end that then kind of rebounds your arms back, almost like you were bouncing a ball, and when it hits, it bounces up and it kind of lifts and then falls and then bounces and then falls and then bounces. So you can do a bounce, bounce, bounce. You can do a reverse kind of. So you can kind of, here I'll do a bounce, and then a reverse. So we do a bounce, bounce, reverse. Play around with it. Try to mix it up. You can mix up the arms too. We're just trying to get some blood flowing, and we're also trying to get our minds out of a sort of constant pattern. So we're trying to throw in some things that will make our mind say, whoa, what was that? So try to make them as fast decisions as possible. You can do as much upper body twist as you want, whatever's comfortable. You can get your shoulders involved. Just switch up the movement so that you are creating a pattern and then you disrupt it and it changes into something else. Maybe your arms move together for a while until they don't. Maybe they move into some arm circles and then switch. Just kind of moving our arms, trying to explore different areas of movement that maybe we wouldn't usually take just by doing regular arm circles. Good. All right, so we're going to continue this a little bit more. So we'll keep warming up our arms and our hands. This time, even more deliberate of snapbacks. So this is almost as if when you move your arms, you're stretching a piece of elastic, and then you let go, and they snap back. And that you could be pulling the elastic this way, and then they snap forward. Or you could be pulling the elastic towards you, and then they snap out. You could just be pulling here, and they snap to here, and then move, and then snap, and then move, and then snap. So we want to practice this feeling of pulling and release, to pull and release, to pull and release. They can be big snapbacks, they can be very small, just like contractions of your muscles in your arms and your shoulders. They can be connected. Good job. All right. Loosen up. Do a little bit of non-snappy movement. Good job. So, while this doesn't look like it's directly tied to the climbing, we never climb up a climbing wall like that. However, one thing we're just doing is using our bodies in a way that we don't usually do, that builds up paths in our brain that we haven't built up before. It engages different muscles that we haven't maybe engaged in traditional exercises with. So what we're looking at is diversifying the movement that we're capable of. And when you diversify the movement that you're capable of, when you get on the climbing wall, you'll be able to solve problems that maybe you didn't have the tools to solve. If the only tools I had to get my arms from here to here was this, it might work sometimes, but what if it doesn't work? What if I need a different way to get there? Maybe that wasn't the best example, but what I mean is you lose nothing by getting more tools in your tool belt for how to move. So that's what we're trying to do. All right, so we're going to warm up our balance and movement and strength part with a little flow, the same flow that we worked on last week, and I think maybe the week before or some other time. And then we'll move into some other movement that we haven't done. So we're going to start facing forward. Nice balanced position. And raise our arms over our head. Bring the foot up. Come into tree pose. Here we're going to hang out. Remember to breathe. Foot comes out of tree position. You're going to bend forward at the waist. Send that foot out back. Reach forward. Keep your eyes trained forward through your hands or slightly down at a non-moving point on the floor to help you balance. Bend into that front leg as low as you can go before setting down the back foot and settling back into a high lunge. Take a small arch here. Come back, shift the weight forward. Bring that foot off the floor. And now we're going to just turn out into our half moon pose. Rotate the back foot so that the toes are pointing out. Slowly rotate to forward facing again. Set that back foot down, back into the high lunge. We're going to bring our hands down to the floor. Walk both feet down to down dog. You can walk out your feet. Pedal out the feet. Move on to our hands. And here you can do either a regular push-up or kind of tricep push-up. So you're going to really hug your elbows into your sides. Come down. And come up into cobra or up dog. Tuck the back toes. Press back into downward facing dog. And We're really going to put our weight into our hands. Look forward to between your thumbs. And we're going to hop, step, or walk your feet up. I'm going to hop. Ground those feet. Bring it back up. And we'll do the other side. Okay? Breathe in. Slight bend back. Leg comes up. You come into tree pose, either above the knee, below the knee, or with the feet, the toes resting on the floor, the heel resting on the ankle, or both ankle. Our rooted foot, the one that's on the floor, is strong, but also has some movement in it. Take that foot up, bend forward at the waist, and extend. Stay here. Bend into that front knee, or putting the back foot down, coming into a high lunge. Slight bend back. I'm going to come forward again. Or opening up into half moon. Slowly transition to facing forward again. Set that back foot back on the ground. We're back in high lunge. Hands come down around the front foot. Step the feet back into down dog. Walk out the feet, pedal out the feet, and stretch the back of the calves. Shift your weight forward into plank. Hug your arms, your elbows in towards your sides. This in cobra or up dog. Leave your knees on the floor and press yourself back to a quick child's pose. And then meet in hands and knees. Here, you're just going to take some cat-cows at your own pace, with the rhythm of your own breath. Then we're going to just walk out the hands and the wrists. You can hold your hands in one position and make small circles to kind of prep those muscles, stretch them. Just don't do anything that hurts. We don't want pain here. Just trying to prepare them for the rest of the practice. Good. Great. So our next movement stuff is going to involve some arm and leg things. So we're gonna, we're going to do some arm warm-ups, specifically wrist warm-ups, just to pair those in our fingers so they're ready. So go ahead and put your hands straight out. Start with flexing, hands up. Leave them in the upright position, this time just the tips of the fingers. extend the fingers. This time we're going into the rotations. Good. Perfect. All right, so for this next exercise, you're gonna need either a ball, a soft kind of ball, or you could use a pair of socks that is balled up together, or you can also use pretty much anything that is not breakable that you feel like you can balance on your hand. So go ahead and take a minute to find either a soft ball, a pair of socks balled together, or something else you can balance on the back of your hand or on your elbow or on your knee. Preferably something you could balance on all three of those spaces. So I'm going to grab a drink of water, grab those things, and we'll meet back here. Awesome. So I'm choosing a hacky sack. It's not super easy to balance, but it's what I got. So we will use it for today. So the goal of this next exercise is to think about balance and movement, like all of our other exercises. When we're on a climbing wall, when we move one hand, we want to know that the other hand or foot or whatever thing that is not moving remains stable. So we have to have, imagine you're climbing something and you have really, really small footholds. If I have all my attention in my hands or even on the foot that's moving, and I stop thinking about the tiny foothold that my other foot is on, if I move here and if I move this foot and I let this foot move as I move with it, and I stop paying attention to this foot, it might slip off the hold, or it probably will slip off the hold. On the other hand, if I can move this foot and compensate with my muscles and my balance in this side, I can leave that foot in the exact same position and basically move anywhere I want while still staying on the hold. So that's the idea we're going to work on today with this exercise. The goal is not to move around with your balanced item. The goal is to move around with the opposite side of your body or whatever limb is not involved in the balancing. So we're going to start with hands. You can start with the ball or whatever your item is balanced in the palm of your hand. This is the easiest way. So we're going to start with this hand all the way outstretched. And we're going to try to do a couple things without letting my arm position or the ball change positions. So the first thing we're going to do is a squat. So find a spot. We're just squatting. We're going to put our hand on the ground, and we're just going to move around. We can move the top of our body, but we want to try to move without disrupting this position. Good. Go ahead and switch sides. Start standing up. Start with your squat, then go into some sort of movement. You can move around, you can reach for things with other parts of your body, you can lay down, you can try to roll around, maybe. Good. So, you maybe felt, what was that about? Felt really easy. Well, the palm of our hand is by far the easiest place to do this exercise. We're going to try a harder version now. This time, the ball is going to be on the back of my fingertips. I'm not going to keep my arm outstretched for this one. I'm just going to keep it right in front of me. I'm going to try to do the same thing. I'm going to go down in my squat. I'm going to move around with my legs as if I was reaching for holds, maybe. Maybe I'll roll around. Maybe move the ball up so that it's out of your line of sight. And stand back up. Good. Switch sides. Try the same thing. Sometimes the ball falls off. If it falls off, just put it back on. Keep going. Great. Cool. So it's hard. It's really good for your mind, for your muscles. We're going to try again with a different part of our body. This time we're going to use our knee. We're going to try to keep it balanced on the top of our knee. This may be hard with depending on the item you have, but just give it a shot. We're going to try to move around. It's very difficult. You can bend your leg if you need to. It's so hard. This can be a game. You can challenge your parents to this if you're kids. Or if you're parents, you can challenge your kids to this. If you've sat down already, now our next goal is to try to stand up. It's a very difficult exercise. Don't do it on your own. I'm cheating. Okay, so let's try out the other side, just for fun. Try first to go down, get to the floor. You have to keep putting the ball back on your leg. Don't worry. It's absolutely fine. Maybe a watered up ball of socks is better for this. Let me know. And back up. Put it on the lid I'm supposed to stand up on. All right, so that was round 1 with the balance, the balance ball. You can also do a similar thing without a balance ball or without something else. You can, for example, lift your foot. You're going to try to maintain this exact same foot position and leg position no matter where you are. So I'm trying to maintain these angles, these 90-degree angles. And again, this is just working our brains in 2 different places. One part of our brain is concentrating on the movement. The other part of our brain is concentrating really hard on the balance. So these are really just mind games, mind-body games. Really good for you. All right, so got our mind working, got our body working. We're going to bring in the stability work for the last part. So for this, you don't need a mat if you have one. You just need the floor. We're just going to move around. We're going to really focus on pressing into our hands, getting the weight off of our feet, rolling. But those of you watching who have been a part of Team Tufas groups know that we like to focus a lot on quiet feet. So this is the idea that when we move, our feet aren't banging around. In the case of climbing, that means our feet are approaching the hold very precisely, hitting the hold with making no sound and not like sliding around on the wall. Same thing applies in this exercise. We don't want any sort of banging noises. We want everything to be soft and controlled. So when you move your feet, if we're doing a motion, say like a leapfrog kind of thing, we want to get as much weight into our arms and hands that we can, engage our core so that we have this lift and can just set our feet down. Really silently. So if we move sideways, we've got silent movement, okay? And I'm just gonna set a timer, and we're just going to try to move silently, strongly, smoothly, for 5 minutes. Okay, starting now. Move around. You can copy me. You can play around with other movements. Remember, no banging on the floor. See, that was too much banging. Hands and feet come down silently. We do some of the crawls we looked at the very first week, I think. Nearly there. About a minute and a half left. Doing great. If you look silly, that's exactly how it should be. Silly but moving. Play around. Move like your favorite animal, maybe. Or your least favorite animal. "30 seconds left. The rolls are the hardest ones to do silently inside. All right. Well done. So hopefully you feel it a little bit. The thing that we want to feel, or that we aim for in these kind of exercises, is this feeling of fluidity and smoothness. In part because those are the exact sorts of feelings we want to feel while climbing. We don't want to feel tense. We don't want to feel stuttery. Again, if we look at the exercises we did today, if you remember the elastic band arms, stretching and snapping, as good as that exercise is for thinking about how we move our body, we don't want to be moving like that on the wall necessarily. However, this last exercise we did with all the movement on the floor, if you can do it smoothly and fluidly and connect each movement to the next, that's what we're aiming for on the climbing wall. And that may not mean that you can do the entire climb fluid altogether. That may just mean that you combine two moves in a fluid manner. So maybe you reach for a hand and you bring up a foot and then you stand on that foot, kind of using the momentum that you're already building in the upward position. So you can use these ideas at any scale. They can be done in small amounts and still be very, very effective and very helpful in increasing the effectiveness and efficiency of your climbing. So if you did that last floor exercise and you thought, oh man, I can do two moves and they feel fluid, and then I have to stop and think about the next moves that I'm going to do, that's okay. That's just like climbing. And once we get more practice in climbing, for example, then we say, okay, I know the next three moves that I'm going to do. And I have them in my head, and I can picture how they feel when I move through them. And so then you'll be doing three moves in a fluid manner together, and then maybe four. So take whatever you've got right now and just keep practicing, and it will turn into something that will better your climbing and your movement at whatever level you need it to. So don't worry if you can only do 2 moves in a fluid manner. That's all you need to start. So great job. Plus, it's just fun. All right. So let's go ahead. We're going to start our warm down. We're going to go ahead and start with our arms. Stretch the shoulders. Switch sides. Reach around and in front of you just to kind of loosen them up. We're going to stretch our necks. Remember, we don't want to be pulling on our neck. Just tilt our neck to one side. If you feel the stretch here and you feel it differently when you reach your hand out, it's totally fine to leave it here. If you need more, you can rest this other hand on your head. You're not pulling. Don't pull. Just rest it there. Extend the other arm. You should feel a little stretch. Move that arm pointing to the back. Back to the side. To the front. Back to the side. Release that arm. Release your head. Go ahead and switch sides. First, put pressure on your head or just lay your head over. Then extend the arm. And point to the back. Point to the side. Point to the front. Back to the side. This arm comes down, release the head. Good. Go ahead and put your hands back and just arch up. Really press the shoulders back. Okay. We're going to just do some seated cat-cows. So we're going to stay here. And we're going to do, you can put your hands on your knees. And so you can see our cat-cows. So here's our cat. Cow. Just going to do them seated. Good. All right. Go ahead and feet out. We're going to tuck one leg under, one leg over, arms out in front. I have my right leg on top, so my right arm is on top. Then release the arms. Put your hands behind you. Unwrap the legs. Switch sides. Arms out in front. Remember to switch the arm that's on top. Release the arms. Come back behind you. Stretch the legs out. Go ahead and bring the soles of your feet together for our butterfly pose. Remember, you can either flap your legs up and down, press down with your elbows on your knees or walk your hands forward. Each of those will feel a little different, so choose the one that feels like it's targeting the best place for you. Walk your hands back up, extend into straddle position. We're going to walk forward to the middle first. Lay one arm to the side, open up for a side stretch. Really reach with this top hand. You're trying to create one long line from your the hip crease all the way up your side body and extending to the tips of your fingers. So try not to break that line anywhere. Want it nice and smooth. And walk your hands through center to the other side. Same thing here. That nice smooth line. That means here, great. We don't want to bring our chest down by bringing our arm down. We want that line to be really shooting that arm high. Back up. Good. All right. End with some wrist circles too, just to loosen up our wrists from all that moving around. And we're going to start, or come back up to standing. Come into a nice forward fold. Just let yourself hang here. You can sway back and forth and grab your elbows if you feel like it. Or you can just hang out. Really release your neck so you're not holding your head up. Go ahead and plant your hands on the ground. Bend your knees slightly and cross one leg over the other. And come back down. Remember to release your head, your neck. Plant the hands, bend the knees, uncross, cross on the other side. Good. Plant the hands, bend the knees, come all the way up. All right. And that's us for today. So thank you all so much for joining me again today. We will be back next week, starting on maybe another set of 5 classes that might have a slightly different theme. So hope to see you next week too. And I hope you all have a nice 4th of July weekend. So see you next week.